Hey guys, welcome to my channel. So recently I got this Sony A7 III for $1,500 and it only had a shutter count of 1,000 pictures, which was insane. So it's like $500 off the sticker price of a new camera, and I got it basically new because 1,000 photos is like nothing. So I just wanted to share some tips and tricks because I've been looking at dozens and dozens of reviews on YouTube, hundreds of comments over the course of the last year before I finally made this purchase. And so I just wanted to share my knowledge with all of you, and hopefully that can inform your decision in buying maybe your first mirrorless or professional camera. So let's begin. So my first tip is, before you get carried away with all the different features and comparisons between cameras, make sure you're clear to yourself what are your must-have features for what you will actually use. So for me, I've been shooting on the Canon 80D for the last 4 years or so. My biggest gripes with it is that it has a cropped sensor, so I have to back up a lot to get everything I want in frame. I really wanted something full frame. I also wanted better dynamic range, which means that in a lighting situation where there's really bright brights and things in the shadows, something with better dynamic range would be able to capture both with adequate detail. I also really wanted focus peaking. I love using my Canon manual lens, and focus peaking allows me to see what's actually in focus on the camera. The camera basically identifies when something's in focus and has a little line that shows up. Sometimes when you're shooting something in manual and it looks in focus on a 3-inch screen, and then you blow it up on a bigger screen and you're like, whoa, I didn't actually get that in focus, and it's too late. You can't just reshoot it. And then I also wanted something way more portable. DSLRs are bigger, mirrorless cameras are smaller. So they're called mirrorless because DSLRs have the image come through the lens, bounce on a mirror onto the sensor, whereas mirrorless just is without the mirror. So it allows you to be able to capture the image with a smaller body. This tutorial isn't really like about, what camera should you get, what is better. I'm just telling you kind of tips and tricks for things that you should consider. My second tip is to rent before you purchase. So I spent an entire weekend renting the Sony A7 III, which retails at $3,500. It came out in 2020. It's a beautiful camera. I also got it with the $2,000, the G Master lens, 24-70 zoom lens. And it was maybe a little bit too much for me. The lens was super heavy. There was a lot of features on the A7 III that I just didn't use. Like I don't shoot in slow-mo, not shooting action. It was a really good experience for me to have it for that entire weekend. The place I went to actually, if you rent something for the weekend, they charge you the price of like 1 day, which was cool because you get the camera for 2 days for the price of 1. After using Canon for so long, using my first Sony camera, it took a little bit to think about where is all the buttons and where do I go for everything I need. So that's something also to think about, and renting can give you that experience with the ergonomics and the menu system of that camera. My third tip is, a lot of YouTube creators put in their description what gear they're using. They're trying to get affiliate links or whatever. I follow people on YouTube that use Canon R, GH5 from Panasonic, and I think there were 2 creators in particular that stood out that did a lot of amazing work with the Sony A7 III that kind of had a lot of influence on my final purchase decision. Brandon Lee is what he calls like a nomadic filmmaker. He travels light and makes beautiful travel videos on gimbals. And then I also love the work of Julia Trotti, who is a portrait photographer and YouTuber. She does weddings and fashion, and she's incredible. So I felt like the A7 III, from the creators that I follow, I knew it could do great landscapes and low light and portraits for various events. And that made me feel more confident to get this particular camera. My fourth tip is to do a cost comparison of the full kit and not just the cost of the body of the camera if you are looking between different options. So for example, for a while I was looking at the list of Netflix approved cameras. Not that I have an upcoming Netflix project, but I was just like, oh, well, if Netflix thinks this is cinematic enough for them, maybe I should get a Netflix approved camera. And the Panasonic BGH1, the cheapest Netflix approved camera, is only $2,000, but it was just so inconvenient from an ergonomics perspective. I would have to rig it up, I would have to spend a lot of money getting different components to it. It has a Leica L mount. I don't own any Leica lenses. And I also wanted to have more of a hybrid camera, and that the BGH1 was definitely just video primary. So some things that I was thinking about as I was switching from my current Canon 80D to the Sony A7 III, I felt like since Canon's moved from the EF mount to the RF mount, if I got an RF mount camera, like a new Canon mirrorless camera, I would need to buy a mount converter anyway, so it just made it a little bit easier to switch mentally. I got this converter, it was $175, I believe, with a discount. It's a Sigma mount MC11, and so that's just what I'm currently shooting with. For photography, it's fine, but for video work, the autofocus just doesn't work with this Canon 50mm lens. My fifth tip would be to check out the used market. I went to Mike's Camera locally in Northern California, and one thing I really like about them is that since they're not great at e-commerce, they literally just have a PDF of all their used equipment inventory and just post it on the internet. 2 lists, one for their cluster of stores in Northern California, another one for their cluster of stores in Colorado. This camera I saw on B&H used was $200 more than what I got it at Mike's Camera for. So I felt like I got a good deal, plus the shutter count, like I've said before, the shutter count on this was extremely low, so that was crazy. I also encourage you guys, if you want to shop around and spend the time, and if you're a little bit more tolerant of risk, and to also look at something like Facebook Marketplace, eBay. I really like the assurance of purchasing this at an actual camera store because they have a return policy, you know, the store stands behind the sale, and I know they did a full check of the camera or else they wouldn't be selling it. But you know, if you could probably save money doing Facebook Marketplace or whatever, but you run the risk, you really do have to check everything yourself. Lastly, I just wanted to say you can do phenomenal work with a lot of different cameras, even your phone camera, and I don't want to sway you guys one system or the other. I'm just trying to give you guys some tips to think through your next purchase decision with a professional camera. So with that, thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know in the comments what you thought. All right, take care.